being a good BNI member ties up with our core values. It's the idea of having a giving mindset without an expectation of return. But like the law of reciprocity, what you put out into the world tends to be what you give back. So a good BNI member, it's like flicking a switch in your head that suddenly you hear things, you see things in the world in your daily life that can help other people within the BNI network. And recognition being one of our core values, we like to recognize those that are doing more. And one of those ways is through our traffic light system, which gives you a good indication of where you're sitting. If you're topping that out, if you've got maximum 100 points across our regions, we look to recognize those members with pens, private dinners, WhatsApp groups, etc. As you sponsor people in, we have Gold Club, recognizing those. So wanted to briefly run through how the new global standard traffic lights operate. And it operates, as I say, across a traffic light system. So where you look at the grey, that's kind of where things aren't moving at the moment. You then move up red, amber, and the green is obviously where the gold standard, where we're genuinely contributing. And you can see across those what kind of the key motivator activity needs to be to progress from each stage to the next. So the global standard that's come in 2025 moving forwards for the traffic lights has a variety of different scoring mechanisms across it. So what I wanted to do today is to cover off the real building blocks that get towards recognition, to at least get to the amber in BNI as a member, but also how to progress into the green and ultimately aspire for the 100-point status. And it really does come down to some really simple goals around doing the activity and maxing out the numbers that kind of come from that. So you can see here, this is what the 100-point goal, how you can maximize that efficiency across what you do. And it starts with the very simple activities, and that is having one-to-ones. Why go out networking and not have conversations with potential referral partners? Again, BNI gives us a lovely, beautiful system. Ivan's done many webinars on the gains profile, the very simple idea of what are our goals? What is it that we're looking to achieve? What have we accomplished? How can we big each other up when we're opening the door for referral opportunities? The sweet spot really is this middle one, the interests. That's really where we start to build an emotional connection, where we realize we both love football, tennis, coaching children in schools, whatever it is. And that's actually how we can really build not only the emotional connection, but potentially open doors for referrals that we wouldn't ordinarily think of. The N for the networks. What other networks do we have access to? That's not just networking organizations outside of BNI. In that context, we're thinking of our networks of customers, suppliers, family, that kind of thing. And then what are our skills? What is our USP perhaps in the market? What can we really do well on? So focusing across those to build that trust between each other, but also the understanding of who we are as individuals, how we can pass referrals. Obviously, you can do this within the members within your chapter, and depending on the size of your chapter, that can take some time in its own right. Hence, for new members, we have the passport system to kind of give them that entitlement to have those crucial one-to-ones early on, but also take advantage of your wider region, national, global. I've had one-to-ones with BNI members all over the world. So getting at least one-to-one a week in, really easy to do, and that will actually max you out in terms of recognition, and it's a good habit to get yourself into. So the other easiest points in BNI really are what we call chapter education units. So that's primarily delivered through BNI Business Builder, which is a platform you have access to as a BNI member from mybni.com, and the app that you can download on your phone, as well as doing it on the website. There are individual presentations, there's full training programs. New members or existing members can refresh, for example, on the member success program, or MSP 2.0, as I believe it's called now. So you can really leverage a lot of learning. The lifelong learning core value really kicks in here. You can come along to live training sessions, which may be online or in person, regionally, nationally. And you can listen to the podcast. Ivan brings out a podcast almost every week. There's about 900 of them. You just listen to one a day, 10, 12 minutes. You'd very easily be able to log that CEU every fortnight, which is the basis of, again, maximizing out the points on the recognition for the traffic lights there. Then the other really easy point is turn up when you say you're going to turn up. And that's how we audition our own reputation. Obviously, we can't always be at every chapter meeting, and the new traffic lights aren't quite as harsh as certainly the UK ones were before. You can have one absence in a 6-month period and still max out your points. So really what we're not thinking about here is, if you can't turn up on the morning, last minute, tires blown, whatever it is, we're thinking about the, and obviously it's good if you've still got someone that can stand in for you at that point, but also kind of planning out when we know that things are going to happen in our lives that are going to make us struggle to get to our meeting. So the ideal substitute is actually, and this is based on a survey that was done with BNI members, who would they like in the room to act as a substitute? And think of a substitute as someone that's generally filling your seat, not just someone with a pulse and a heartbeat that can read something you've written down. Are they genuinely representing you and your business? So someone else that you know that could join the chapter, they can't count as a visitor that week if they're acting as your sub, but what a great person to put in the room for your fellow members. Back to the giver's gain. A great client for another member. If you're looking at creating a referral, an introduction, even to another member in the chapter, what better way than to get that person in the room for a week to substitute for you, and to be able to meet that other member. Customers, they're really good. They're your advocates in the room. They're basically giving you a testimonial. So again, genuinely representing you in the room for that entire meeting, adding value, being your advocate. Suppliers, people that you work with, again, they can be useful. Don't always worry about whether these people can join or not. It's, would they get value, or could they give value to the room? And people that we know, relatives, friends, they're the people who say, oh, can you do me a favor? Go along, have a free breakfast at this business meeting, sign on to a meeting for me. And, they're going to say, yeah, I know Bob really well, and be an advocate, give you that report back after the meeting saying, oh, yeah, so-and-so was visiting. I think it'd be worth you following up for your business. And then, yes, business partners, staff members, if you're in that slightly larger business. And then, as I say, you've basically got anyone with a heartbeat or a pulse, which is good. Interesting enough, and as I say, this is based on a survey. Below that, you then have members from another chapter. Now, they are often people that are easy to rely, and they like the opportunity to get around the region. It's an opportunity we can all leverage, or seek to leverage, where there isn't a conflict, to kind of get round. But how valuable are they? A substitute from another chapter is kind of like, if I'm a football manager, would I put a sub on from the competing team? So kind of manage that one carefully. The super subs, the people that are happy to come as much as they're invited to sub for people, but are never going to join. Are they really part of the BNI ethos? And then ex-members, people that have already decided to leave. Do we really want to be choosing to put them back in the room? So think of, different groups of people that you could call on. There's the people that you can ask several weeks out. You've got people that you can ask several days before, and then the night before. Something critical's come up. I need to take my wife to a hospital appointment. Something like whatever it might, I'm ill, whatever it might be. Who could you say, oh, can you cover for me tomorrow? So having that, and then literally on the morning, someone that really last minute that you can do. So have that list in backup, because that's what will make sure you get a firm basis, and you're never essentially losing the easiest points in BNI. The bad news is that only gets you to 40 points. So you're still in the red. So what do we actually need to do now to genuinely make a contribution? None of those things we would advocate talking about in your contributions round, because they're just kind of expected, that you would have one-to-ones that you do in your CEUs, and you're in the meeting. The rest is things that we can actually do to help fellow members or get recognition for helping those fellow members. And so it starts with referrals, which sounds really hard, particularly when you're new into a group, you don't know people. Am I really going to create referrals for them? But actually, as I said at the beginning, it's kind of flicking that switch in your head and realizing that, we actually hear all sorts of things on a daily basis. So there's the positive, going out and looking for things, which is where specifics are really good. If everyone is asking for a specific name, you never know who we know in the room. Maybe I'll just go and reach out to that person on LinkedIn, or pick up the phone on behalf of that fellow member and say, yeah, John, your name was mentioned this morning. Have you heard of Bob? No, I don't think I've heard of Bob. I think you two need to speak. Let me connect you and set up a conversation. So it could be as simple as that it's easier to sell someone else than to sell yourself. But obviously, if you already know that person, that's going to be so much easier to do, and that person's looking for that. Obviously, looking at spending money. Every time I need to spend money, I need something doing in my personal life or my business life. Why wouldn't I give an opportunity to somebody in BNI, whether that's someone in my own chapter or across the region or nationally? So again, that's a great way of creating opportunities. We've then got the reactive. So I hear somebody planning. They're planning to get married. They're planning to move house. Life changes, business changes. I'm planning to employ someone. Would you like an introduction to recruitment? Planning to get married. Have you booked the honeymoon? Would you like an introduction? Have you written a will? Suddenly, just by hearing the planning, you can open the door for it. You've also got the bragging. I've just won the lottery. Would you like me to introduce you to a financial advisor? And then you've got the complaining. I've got this problem. Could I use that as a way of opening a door on an opportunity? I would always caveat that with, just because you hear it doesn't mean they want to talk to someone about it. We all know people who love to complain. So if that is happening, it's like, would you like me to introduce you to someone to potentially solve that? Make sure they are genuinely, obviously, open to that. And that's the beauty of the BNI system. When we talk about referrals, they're on a scale of 1 to 5, and sometimes people worry about, is that a referral or not? And actually, when you look at that scale, the level 1 to 3 are relatively uncertain. We don't really know if they're going to have business, and it's really by the time you get to the 4 or 5 that we think it could turn into something. And we're recognizing referrals from across that range. Obviously, it's your own reputation you're putting on the line. So if you kind of pass the confetti of too many referrals that never convert into anything, that's perhaps a further conversation with those members about whether it's a useful thing to be doing for them, because ultimately we are looking to get a good chance of business. But some people are happy to have equally those really uncertain referrals, because they want to fill their funnel with people that they can nurture and contact, and so it's not always about the definite closed business. So a level 1 can be as simple as connection details. The caveat would be, it should at the very least, if I've got a referral, you can call up Linda. I ring up, hi Linda, it's Glenn. Yes, I was expecting your call. It may be as simple as that. It's just an exchange of connection details. There's an expectation of communication. Beyond that, I might not know whether Linda's got budget, whether she's got immediate need, particularly specific referrals. I don't know. I might ask a few questions, but if they've just asked for an introduction and the member is to handle that inquiry, that's very much potentially useful. As we warm up, that's where I'm setting up a meeting, getting more involved. I've sent some brochures, pointed them to the website, asked them a few questions. Have they got a budget? Is there an immediate need? So I'm kind of warming it up. So as a member receiving a level 2, 3, 4, I'm starting to think, okay, yeah, I know what's happening. The level 4 could even be a quote. Sometimes in the quoting world, as we know, people ask for 3 or quotes. So again, we don't know that that's going to turn into closed business. But level 5 can pretty much be a done deal. So particularly if I'm referring myself an inside referral, and I know I'm going to consume that service, you can obviously put that as a level 5. A level 5 as well could be like a 3-way meeting. We all get together. I really think you need to work together, and you really get involved, so it's going to happen. You're going to ensure with the member to get it across the line. So referrals, again, if you're aiming for at least one or more a week, I think it's 1 1/4. Obviously, can't pass a quarter of a referral. So yeah, some weeks you want to do more, but the standard of BNI is the contribution round. Stand up, have something to say. So at least passing a referral every week sets that base standard. Now, visitors are the lifeblood. We all visited to become members in the first place. None of us put in applications or accepted as a member, certainly on the basis of not meeting everyone. So it is more new connections in the room every week, whether people join or not. Our conversion rate is relatively low when you think about it, of visitor to new member. That's not the purpose, or the primary purpose at least, of putting people in the room. It is about creating more and new connections. It creates a better atmosphere for our groups. Otherwise it becomes a little bit too insular, familiar, if we haven't got new people in the room. So we all up our standard, we act more professionally. It brings more business. A third of the business, when we talk about these $20 billion done in BNI, that third of that number is generally down to visitors. So that's people that don't join BNI but pass business to our members. And it is that great opportunity when you put a new person in the room. They're going to be exposed to people's weekly presentations, feature presentations. I'm not going to ask a friend, family, colleague, client, or even a cold invite to a BNI meeting, 20, 30 questions to find referral opportunities for everyone in the room. But I put them in the room, they're exposed to it, and potentially they'll go, oh, actually, I do need a will, or whatever it is that might not come up in conversation. It's a great opportunity to pass business. We're inviting people generally who obviously don't have that category taken in the room. So it's like, all right, you do something that nobody else in the room does. Give us game. If we can pass business to you, they might come back and seek to join as a member. And ultimately, as I say, that's the lifeblood of a networking group, is having people visiting from that. Some will look at it and say, yes, this is the right thing for me, and should they be accepted? Obviously, that's the lifeblood of growth, success, and sustainability for the chapter. And helping power teams, who's that missing cog in our construct of a power team that could come along. And obviously the traffic light recognition. With the new global standard, there's a much weightier distribution to visitors and the activity behind it. So obviously, if we want to be a green member, focusing on that is really important. So what counts? So guests and visitors registered on the system, and you can register not just for your own chapter now, but across the country. So you can invite an accountant who maybe couldn't visit your group, but maybe they can visit a launch group, or maybe they can visit the group down the road that's just created a vacancy. So you get recognition for bringing people into BNI generally, exactly the same as has now been the case with referrals for many years, where I can pass referrals, yes, to my chapter, that's my primary focus, but if I can find opportunities for someone down the road in the region, across the region, nationally, or even globally. So subs are not visitors. As I said earlier, our responsibility is to have our seat filled, our business represented each week. And obviously we can have substitutes, but we wouldn't get double recognition for that. And other BNI members aren't visitors. So whilst it's lovely to encourage, and it's part of the value that we can get from membership ourselves, that we can go and visit where our seat is open, it's good etiquette to check. But visiting other chapters, but obviously if we register or invite people that way, they wouldn't count as visitors. So often it's like, oh, who would I invite? And actually it doesn't need to be difficult. Think about, we just talked about subs a few minutes ago. Think again about, who do we know? Because they're the easiest ones to pick up the phone to send a message to and say, hey, I'm going to this networking meeting, you ought to come along. So going for the people we know is the easiest. Then we've got the people that we vaguely know, maybe we went to school with, we're connected on LinkedIn, and then we've got the people that we don't know. And often the challenge is we think we want new people, so we go straight to the cold, but that becomes a numbers game. If I'm reaching out to people I've never known, never met, not even connected with on a social media platform, and I start messaging them or phoning them or banging on the door, it's going to be a numbers game. And you've got to take a lot of no's. So if that's the way you want to go, if you haven't got a strong network, but actually thinking about who we know, like when we look for referrals, who do we spend money with, who do we stand with at the school gate, who do we meet in the pub, all social clubs, etc. There are genuinely people in our network we haven't invited, even if been members for 20 odd years. So do think about what category those people sit in, and therefore how many you're inviting from those categories. For me, I've always taken the visitor process as a really simple 5-step process. And the first question, which you can use in virtually any context, whether it's a cold message on LinkedIn or standing next to someone talking, are you looking to take on more business? Because if they haven't got the aptitude at the moment to grow, then a networking meeting isn't going to be a great investment of their time potentially, and therefore it may not go anywhere. Then you're just kind of positioning, we're looking for somebody who does what you do, makes it feel personal. You're mentioning the day of the week, as I said earlier. Now that we can get recognition across the wider region, if not nationally, that kind of spreads it out. But obviously, primarily, we would usually invite for our own group. If I can arrange an invite, make it a privilege rather than they're doing you the favor, that kind of helps in the process. And register them, confirm them. Who else do they know that's looking to grow their business locally? So again, turn one visitor into 2, 3 if they bring their business partner, or you invite the plasterer who knows an electrician. It's kind of naturally going to work well. And then confirming with people the day before. Obviously, they get emails and all that kind of thing. But if I've made the effort to invite someone, and asking them, are you going to be there? Yes or no? That's what you want to know. But if you ask them that, it's an easy out. So actually just saying, confirming numbers. Is it you, just you, or are you bringing someone else with you? So a really simple 5-step process there. And that puts people in the room. Now, to get to 100 points, which is what I promised, it is the icing on the cake. It's the final recognition of not only doing the basics, which get you to the 40 points, adding on sufficient quantity of those activities of referrals, visitors. It's actually sponsoring someone in. So yes, we want to put visitors in the room for all the reasons we talked about, but ultimately we want to grow our chapters, and therefore we want to sponsor in people who then become members. So just sponsoring one person every 6 months gets you an extra 5 points, which would get you up to, assuming you're doing all the other activity, up to 95 points. So to get to 100 points, the last metric is thank you for the business, which is based on a return on investment. So if the membership multiplied by about 20x, is where you're aiming for. That's what we would look for a member return. So equally, givers gain, that's what we should be putting back into the chapter. So it works out at the moment about £28,000, 28,800, I believe. So that kind of magnitude, but that is now gradated on a 1 to 5 scale. So 5, if you did basically 30k, you get the maximum 5 points, and therefore, assuming all the other activity, 100 points. Otherwise, that's where you're probably going to sit around the 96, 97, 98, if you haven't yet been thanked for business at that level. So just to close really briefly, it is the really simple power of one. Go to one meeting a week, do one one-to-one a week, bring one or more referrals each week, do one CEU every fortnight. So to average that out, and bring just one visitor a month. You actually only need to do 5 to get the maximum recognition over a 6-month period. But back to the power of one. If you focus on one a month, because you're always going to get people that don't turn up and that kind of thing. That's you, 100 points. So